It is Thursday, the 31st of July. Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan, and thanks for joining me as we take a look at your weekend weather and the outlook for next week. Just a programming note, we don't have a video tomorrow Friday due to a planned power outage in our part of Auckland, so we won't be able to make any videos, but we do have our next ClimateWatch update being issued quite early tomorrow morning as we take a look at the Australasian forecast for the month of October. So that's out tomorrow. But let's get into the forecast. We have got a change coming, and it's in the form of a very powerful high pressure zone. That means clearer skies, lower temperatures, frosts returning and maybe going as far north as the upper North Island this weekend. So at the moment, we've still got a bit of instability out in the Tasman Sea. You can see a few showers around. A couple of those could be heavy and thundery. Most of the thunderstorm activity, as you can see up here, further towards or near Norfolk Island, just south of Norfolk Island, tracking along north of New Zealand as well, maybe one or two just clipping the far north. And that's a developing low pressure zone. But the high pressure zone that's coming in is much bigger and more powerful, and that's it right there, south of Australia. But it's going to balloon out over the coming 24 hours and move into the South Island. Before it does, look at the southerly here, all the way up into Queensland. Temperatures are down over there. And we've got a few thunderstorms where it transitions from the warmer airflow to the colder one. So as we just saw, most of that energy is north of the country, but one or two isolated thunderstorms do linger around the western and upper parts of the North Island. But yeah, between the low pressure and the high pressure zone, this is a southerly change coming on through. Frosty weather returns on Friday morning, mostly around the South Island, but we do see a little bit coming up around Wairarapa Upper and up into the Central Plateau, which means isolated areas in between may also get a light frost. Not looking so frosty at the very top of the country, not yet anyway. So noon Friday, look at the polar line here. So that airflow, the colder airflow, comes right up into the North Island. Southeasterly winds for the North Island, which means usually places like Waikato and Auckland and Taranaki can be quite sunny. But once you come down further to the lower North Island, you've got showers around mostly Wairarapa Upper, maybe some parts of Manawatu on the eastern coastal side, and then a couple more showers coming up into northern Hawke's Bay, Mahia Peninsula, the usual areas that got them last week, but nowhere near as much as what you had last week. So a little windy around the North Island, that's why it's frost free. And then you've got lighter winds around the south, couple of showers clearing away Canterbury. Canterbury had some decent downpours yesterday and they were carrying on into the evening as well, but that mostly clears away. High pressure from Australia is moving on in. So the frosts do expand this weekend. Look at Saturday, right up into the Coromandel Peninsula, Auckland regions, which usually means you might see a couple of frost right up into Northland. I'm thinking about just tweaking these maps a little bit to make them actually a little more sensitive to the temperatures at the moment. Sometimes I think it doesn't quite show all of the frost risks. Let me know if you think these maps are accurate. They're the only ones that are in New Zealand, so we created these ones with the help of GFS out of the USA, because as you all know, we don't get much data out of our own government. This is the South Islands map here on Sunday morning, so decent frosts around there. Into the North Island, shrinks a little bit on Sunday, but could still be frosty as far north as Waikato, Bay of Plenty, and over towards Tairāwhiti, although don't expect much on the eastern side because there'll be a bit of a breeze still here and there and a bit of cloud. So noon Saturday, there is the cold line retreating a little bit as we go through into the weekend. High pressure is getting closer though, so that kind of locks in the cold air at nighttime. Daytime temperatures, some of you might notice maybe a degree or two improvement going into the weekend here and there, but it does depend on where that here and there is. If it's on the eastern side, not so likely, because once the high rolls in on Sunday, this the right-hand side of it's where you got the southerlies coming through. So that goes back up again, right up into the Bay of Plenty, East Cape area. So you will feel that along the whole eastern side of the country. Look at the air pressure, 1039, very powerful. Our record in New Zealand is 1046. So you're getting up there. Once you get to the 1040 mark, that just basically means when it's more powerful, it's got more elbow room to kind of push away any low pressure zone or rainmaker that is trying to come on in. So if you're sick of the rain, this is a map that you really want to be looking at. If you need rain, probably not the best. And there's not many places that need rain, but there are a couple here and there. So on Monday, 1041, high pressure getting bigger, more powerful. The center of the high, not necessarily getting larger, but the shape of the whole system is getting bigger, generally speaking, stretching up into the tropics a lot further. And so while not all of the country is underneath that center part of it, the powerful nature of it means that even as you sort of drift off from the center, it's still going to be mostly dry. But of course, the higher the air pressure, especially when you've got low pressure nearby, means that you get a bigger air pressure gradient. To me, when you see a big high like this surrounded by a low nearby with all these isobars, I see it like a topographical map. So that's kind of like Mount Taranaki, and you've got the big steep slope going down the other side, and it's kind of like that all the way around it. Steep air pressure going up to the middle, just like a topographical map. That means the slope is steeper. So if you're walking down it, you're more likely to roll and fall. The air does the same thing. So when it's closer together like that, the air moves faster around it. That's getting quite windy in there. Sorry if that was kind of a long talk. But anyway, windy weather is coming through around the outer edges. So that's what you feel in the North Island. And that's one of the reasons why the frost risk reduces a little bit going into next week. Now on Tuesday, the high is still very powerful, stretches down towards the Southern Ocean and goes up to Fiji, excuse me. So the size of the high is maybe not as big as the one we had last week, but the central air pressure is more powerful, and so it's a more solid system. You know, bigger isn't always better with highs. Sometimes they can be a bit more consolidated and they don't move as fast. So this one is kind of stuck in place. So all the stormy stuff you see around the outer edges kind of stays there. It's not likely to penetrate into that high pressure zone. So as we go through next week, not a lot to talk about. The high is in control, which gives weather forecasters, and not just me, but the Met Service severe weather team have been very busy lately. They have issued a huge amount of warnings over the last couple of months. So they'll be looking at this map and thinking, that's pretty good. A little bit quieter, put the feet up maybe a couple of days, go home a little bit earlier here and there if you've got a big high like that coming through next week. And look, our final map, 7 days from now, high pressure over the North Island and out towards the Chatham Islands, linking up with another one over Victoria, Australia, which goes all the way back to the Indian Ocean. So from the Indian Ocean, all the way past the international date line of the Pacific Ocean, south of French Polynesia, that's like 9,000 kilometers of high pressure all through here, which means you've got some low pressure up here in the tropics, which is a little unusual at this time of the year. And our Climate Watch update tomorrow talks about the La Nina, El Nino neutral thing. We're in neutral at the moment, but there's a little bit of chatter about La Nina, although that happened last year for 12 months and nothing happened. So we're a little bit cautious about that one. And all the storms down here are kind of uniform. A lot of westerly winds brushing the South Island. So for now, that looks a little bit like a spring weather pattern, that one that you see here a week from now. Too early to declare a spring arriving in New Zealand just yet, but that is looking more and more like a September weather pattern than a midwinter one. So we'll just keep an eye on it. I mean, this time of the year, things can just change so quickly. So we'll be monitoring that one. Climate Watch update that is out Friday morning, quite early in the day. As I say, we're not around tomorrow due to the power outage that's planned. So have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again early next week.